The protagonist suddenly wakes up in the body of a noble, one who, in the future, becomes the patron and sponsor of the 5 greatest villains destined to destroy the empire. When he first arrives in this new world as the son of a count, he finds himself living a life of luxury and ease. Though the body he possesses is illiterate and has no special abilities, he's treated like royalty. Maids bathe him, servants obey his every word, and he doesn't have to lift a single finger. Our boy is living the dream, enjoying every second of being transmigrated into this world. But his peace doesn't last long. One of the maids informs him that his siblings will soon arrive, 2 brothers named Leo and Tonio. Hearing those names sends chills down his spine. He freezes, realizing with horror that he has become the son of Count Palacio. Panic strikes immediately. Memories flood his mind as he recalls a game called Psychedelia. In this game, players create characters and navigate branching storylines. A role-playing game he used to play after long, exhausting 9-to-5 shifts. In that game, no matter what choices the player makes, the moment the 5 great villains, known as the 5 great sins, appear, the entire empire begins to crumble. Nobles fall, kingdoms burn, and chaos takes over. The 5 great sins represent the worst sides of humanity: wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession. Among the noble families destroyed in their rampage is none other than the Palacio household, the same troublemaking family that serves as a side quest before the main storyline even begins. Just his luck. He didn't just end up as a noble. He's in the house that's fated to fall first. Now we finally learn his name. Alan Palacio, the 3rd son of Count Palacio. Alan is completely traumatized by this revelation. He'd rather deal with his old boss shouting at him than die in some fantasy tragedy. For a moment, even being owed 5 months' salary doesn't seem so bad compared to facing a guaranteed death. To make things worse, he doesn't have a system, cheatability, or any special skill to help him. But then an idea strikes. Since he knows the entire storyline of the game, he can simply remove the root causes that lead to the Empire's downfall. For the sake of his own survival, Alan decides to reform the 5 great sins before they become villains. Fortunately, at this point in time, the 5 sins are still just children. 2 months later, Alan is in his study, going through reports. A mercenary named Evan enters and delivers his mission results. He rescued several children from an illegal human experimentation center and sent them to an orphanage as ordered. Alan nods in approval, but Evan seems confused. He hesitantly asks if his master really complimented him because Alan's face doesn't show it. Alan freezes for a moment before forcing an awkward smile, which honestly looks more terrifying than reassuring. Clearly, he still hasn't adjusted to the body of Alan Palacio. Evan awkwardly thanks him for the praise, though he looks creeped out. Alan then reveals that Evan is actually a rare character in the game, one known for his loyalty and honesty, unlike other mercenaries who betray their employers. That's why Alan hired him. Evan shifts the topic, recalling a certain girl named Yusha, someone his master mentioned before. He admits that in all his years as a mercenary, he has seen many things, but this girl is definitely not normal. When he raided the experiment facility, she was the only one still chained, and that wasn't even the strangest part. Her presence alone was terrifying. From a single glance, Evan could tell she possessed immense power, yet she made no attempt to escape, almost as if she chose to remain there. Evan doesn't see any reason to keep her around and voices his concerns. Alan understands his logic, but placing her in the orphanage is part of his larger plan. That girl, Yusha Bludia, is half-human and once signed a contract with a powerful being from another world. In the original game, she eventually becomes the first sin, the sin of wrath, killing hundreds of thousands. Alan thinks to himself that if she grows up in a peaceful and safe environment, maybe she won't turn into the monster she's destined to become. If that works, then he has already solved one of his biggest problems. Of course, all of this is just in his head. Evan is still waiting for an answer, so Alan casually says it's not yet time. Now Evan is even more confused. Still, Alan insists the matter must remain private and promises to personally sponsor the orphanage. Evan accepts the command, and Alan hands him a sealed letter, instructing him to deliver it to Yusha personally. It's quite the achievement considering Alan couldn't even read when he first arrived in this world. Evan, understanding the importance, immediately departs. Meanwhile, Alan reveals that the letter contains a special message he received in the game after completing it several times. A quote from the Archbishop meant to help befriend a half-human. Unfortunately, in the game, the message always arrived too late, after Yusha had already turned into the sin of wrath. Attempts to calm her will fail, marking the beginning of the first boss fight. Though it sounds crazy to think a single quote could change fate, Alan believes it's worth trying. After all, he doesn't have many options left. Now, Alan turns his attention to finding the next great sin. Elsewhere, Yusha stands quietly, reading Alan's letter. Evan watches nervously from the side, overwhelmed by the powerful mana radiating from her. Yusha suddenly looks up and asks if Alan really wrote this letter himself. Her tone alone makes Evan break into a cold sweat. The sheer pressure she releases feels like something only a mage of the Master Realm could produce. One wrong word, and she might crush him instantly. Desperately recalling Alan's earlier words, Evan steadies his trembling voice and says, "He told me it's not yet time." A spark of recognition flashes across Yusha's eyes from a particular line. Her expression softens as she murmurs that this is a line only her true master would know. Evan, still on high alert, watches carefully. Then, to his shock, Yusha smiles sweetly and says she understands her master's intentions. The narration reveals that Yusha is the daughter of a monster and bears the title of the Bloody Queen. Meanwhile, back at home, Alan Palacio sleeps peacefully, thinking he's avoided a disaster, unaware that he has just started something far greater than he can imagine. The next scene shifts to the Count's Grand Library, where Alan searches for clues about the third great sin. At the same time, Evan reports the successful rescue of the second great sin. Everything seems to be going according to plan, so Alan asks if the child has been treated well. Evan confirms, about to explain how he found the boy at a slave market, when a library door suddenly explodes open. The culprit turns out to be Alan's brother, Tonio Palacio, the second son of the Count. Tonio looks shocked to see his so-called illiterate brother in the library and realizes the rumor about Alan studying might actually be true. But our boy has zero energy to deal with this nonsense. Tonio, clearly irritated by being ignored, is demanding attention. Alan wonders how the real Alan ever managed to put up with this guy. Though tempted to snap back, he instead lowers his head and plays the obedient younger brother. Tonio smirks, satisfied that Alan finally knows his place until a dagger flies past and narrowly misses his head. This family is beyond repair, because the one who threw that dagger is none other than Leo Palacio, the eldest son of the Count. Tonio doesn't take the attack lightly, and just like that, the two brothers start fighting. While chaos erupts, our boy quietly slips away, grateful for the distraction. In his thoughts, he recalls that in the original game, the Palacio family was the first to fall, but reality proves they're far more dangerous than he imagined. The two brothers are constantly at each other's throats, fighting for the title of family head. In the underworld, both are infamous. Leo, the eldest, is known as the king of prostitution, basically a powerful pimp who runs the capital's dark entertainment trade. Tonio, on the other hand, controls the largest drug cartel in the kingdom, so big it would make even Escobar jealous. These two are absolute disasters, and Alan wants nothing to do with them. For the sake of his own safety, he's fine living as the trashy third son of Count Palacio, unaware that this same trashy son is quietly fostering monsters who could one day destroy nations with a single word. For now, though, he's just as clueless as anyone. Evan resumes his report, explaining that the second rescued child seems far from normal. Alan stares at him blankly, almost as if he said something stupid. Evan can't understand it. How does his master keep discovering hidden illegal sites, an underground human experiment facility, a secret slave market, all in different regions? The more time he spends with Alan, the more confused he becomes. He concludes his report by saying the rescued boy has been sent to the orphanage. Alan simply hums softly, sounding almost uninterested. But inside his mind, he's panicking. The second child isn't just abnormal. He's a walking catastrophe. In the game, there was a united kingdom made up of several nations, with its central power being the Kingdom of Caline, the same place where the illegal slave market was found, and where the second great sin, Deus Micalian, made his appearance. Deus's past is unknown, but he was sold into slavery, abused, and passed from one place to another. He eventually broke and became the sin of sloth. His awakening led to the destruction of the entire United Kingdom in the most horrifying way imaginable. Players of the original game always complained about this arc. It was brutal. Ironically, Deus's core personality setting made him hard-working and dutiful, someone who always repaid both kindness and cruelty. Just thinking about that makes Alan's hands tremble. As usual, Evan questions why Alan would send such a child to the orphanage. Alan gives his standard answer, "It's not yet time." Evan expected that. Later, it's revealed that Alan sends another letter to Yusha. The contents are simple: his daily life, some random small talk, and most importantly, instructions to look after Deus Micalian. At the orphanage, Deus stands alone, isolated from the other children. Yusha approaches him, sensing the darkness lingering around him, and he is broken. The scars on his body tell a story of suffering beyond imagination. She starts talking about the black goat, though its meaning remains unclear. Still, the moment she mentions it, Deus's dull eyes suddenly light up. Yusha continues, saying he has been chosen by the Great Moon. She demonstrates her immense power and advises Deus to embrace the strength within him, to unleash his true potential. She offers him a place beside her, promising that by following her orders, he will one day have his revenge. Under her guidance, Deus releases a massive surge of mana threads. The power shakes the air, but he manages to keep control. Seeing this, Yusha smiles, satisfied with the result, and decides to write back to her master for the first time, starting with a simple greeting. It's safe to say something big is about to happen to Alan's family. The man just wants these kids to live normal lives, but they're out here forming a full-blown cult. The scene shifts back to the Palatial estate. As usual, Alan is buried in books, searching for clues about the next great sin. Evan bursts into the room with urgent news. It's about Tonio Palatial. Alan looks puzzled until Evan drops the bombshell. Tonio is dead. Looks like Yusha's greeting wasn't just a letter. Poor guy ended up dead because of a brotherly banter. At the funeral, the Count himself shows no emotion. His son just died, but he doesn't look bothered in the slightest. Alan already knew his family was messed up, but this is on another level. He finds the situation suspicious. Tonio's death was ruled an accident from a fall, which doesn't match the original game's plot, where he was supposed to die at the hands of Leo. Alan doesn't know whether to feel guilty or relieved at that time, but one thing's certain, the bastard is relishing this moment. On the bright side, he didn't bring women to the funeral like their father usually does. Despite this development, Alan's goal remains the same: find the remaining great sins. A year passes since Tonio's death. Leo takes over his drug empire, and for once, the county is peaceful. Something else changes too. Alan and Yusha become pen pals. Reading one of her letters, Alan smiles, relieved to hear that all the orphanage children are doing well. It also turns out the orphanage now has other sponsors, which both he and Evan find strange but welcome. Then, while going through documents, Evan places his hand on one file and mentions a clue about the third great sin. Alan listens carefully, feeling a sense of relief. Everything seems to be going smoothly. He expects another peaceful evening. But then the scene cuts to an underground drug operation. Ever since Leo took over Tonio's trade, business has been booming, or so his subordinates claim. One man starts boasting about their profits, but stops mid-sentence as he notices dozens of corpses lying in pools of blood. The remaining men twitch violently, no longer in control of their bodies. One by one, they turn their weapons on themselves. Screams fill the underground chamber. From the shadows, Deus Micalian stands beside Yusha Bloodiya. Now it's clear why Deus is considered a catastrophic level threat. He can kill thousands in a blink. Yet even he seems unsure, asking Yusha the reason behind this slaughter. She simply asks if he feels pity. He shakes his head, saying these people deserved it for using others to make drugs. Honestly, I don't know how it's possible. When Deus questions what this has to do with revenge, Yusha explains, they are merely clearing the path for their master. These kids are far too deep into this madness. In their minds, everything must proceed according to his will. They now call themselves the Blue Moon. And it's definitely not a cult if they don't realize they already have a crest. 2 years have passed since our boy arrived in this world and became pen friends with Yusha. The scene shifts to his backyard where Evan returns from his mission, completely exhausted. Apparently, all 5 children have been accounted for. Somehow, our boy managed to pull it off. He saved the 5 great sins. As part of Evan's reward, our boy offers him some pastries. While playfully tossing one for Evan to catch, he mentions that among the 5 great sins, the sin of greed was the hardest to find. But thanks to his gamer knowledge, everything eventually worked out. After that, he tells Evan to rest well. Evan, curious, asks if the orphanage mission is complete. When our boy confirms it, Evan sighs in relief. He also asks if his master is happy. In the truth, he's the happiest person alive because now he's not destined to die. To show just how happy he is, he flashes a faint smile. Well, that's the brightest his face can get, one might say. For now, our boy enjoys a rare moment of peace. The same calm he felt when he first arrived in this world. In the original game, the 5 great sins only became bosses because of their tragic pasts. Those tragedies were the triggers for their awakening. But even though he saved them, a small worry lingers in his heart. What if he saved them only after they were already broken? Thinking about this, he asks about the orphanage. Evan, while handing over a letter, reports that there's nothing abnormal. In fact, everything is going great. The once broken children, who used to act like emotionless dolls, are now lively and playful. Hearing that, our boy opens the letter and realizes he doesn't need to worry about finding a caretaker. Never in his thoughts did he expect Yusha to handle everything so well. Maybe it's because of her connection to that place. The letter is so detailed that he can almost picture the orphanage, a peaceful and cheerful place filled with laughter. He can't help but feel a little proud. What started as a small plan to gather 5 children has turned into a successful establishment. Seeing his good mood, Evan asks when his master plans to make his first visit. But our boy dodges the question. Visiting them never even crossed his mind. Sure, getting closer to them could have some benefits, but deep down he's scared. The experiences he remembers from the game still haunt him. Even though he saved them early, the idea of meeting them feels like sending a lamb into a lion's den. Evan, unaware of his inner thoughts, waits for a reply. So our boy quickly comes up with an excuse. He'll visit in 5 years. Until then, he plans to focus on learning defensive skills. After arriving in this world, he discovered that he actually has the talent to wield magic. In this world, only those born with the gift can use it. While training, Evan suddenly remembers something and asks about the Blue Moon. Our boy hasn't heard of them, so Evan explains they're a new group that's become popular for hunting down criminal organizations. On the surface, Alan Palacio doesn't see anything wrong with taking out trash like that. But deep inside, he knows this wasn't part of the game's storyline, so he concludes it's probably just a temporary event. That's when Evan makes a throat-slitting gesture, adding that the group has also been killing nobles. At that moment, our boy's expression changes. He orders Evan to sleep next to his room from now on. Meanwhile, back at the orphanage, the kids are holding their own little meeting. Yusha, standing like the boss she is, calls the first person to give her weekly report. A blonde beast-human girl steps forward. She's the sin of pride, said Lang. Energetic as ever, she proudly reports that she handled everything herself. She even dealt with the heads of a slave market. They failed to guess her eye color, she says with a grin that she wiped them out. Another girl joins in. This one's Rhine, the sin of greed. Seeing Sedlang's carefree tone, she is concerned and hopes she cleaned up the scene properly. Then another voice speaks up, a boy reporting from the south. He explains that all the human lab experiments and the organization known as Avalon have been wiped out. He's Raiden, the sin of obsession. Together, these 5 kids make up Yusha's special group, Blue Moon. It's safe to say these children have been completely brainwashed into playing Yusha's little game. Except there is nothing little about it. But during the meeting, one of them reports something that instantly pisses Yusha. In her world, everything must be perfect for their master. She is officially a boss lady now. Deus Michaelian reports that during the southern raid with Raiden, they discovered that the head of Avalon was none other than the eldest son of Count Palacio, and that he's planning something dangerous. When she hears that Leo Palacio plans to kill his father and poison their master, Yusha freezes for a moment. They don't call her the sin of wrath and bloody queen for nothing. Her sudden shift in expression makes Sedlang and Rhine tremble. And with that message, one thing becomes clear. Leo Palacio is completely cooked. 2 years later, Count Palacio meets his end. Our boy attends the funeral. The autopsy says the Count died of cardiac arrest, though he knows that it was caused by drug abuse. During the ceremony, our boy overhears his brother talking about Blue Moon. Apparently, one of their bases was recently raided and destroyed. People have started taking the group seriously now. The funeral ends quickly. No one seems to truly mourn the Count. Amid the silence, Leo Palacio's eyes lock onto our boy. Meanwhile, Evan notices his master packing. Alan insists Evan comes along. He declares that they're leaving the estate immediately. As usual, Evan obeys, though he's confused. Alan simply tells him they're heading south, to Rodmill Village, a small place within the Palacio territory. They waste no time leaving the mansion. Leo, standing behind, silently watches their carriage depart. Once in Rodmill, our boy takes it easy, enjoying fried eggs and toast. His trusted attendant joins him for the home-cooked meal, unaware that in just 3 days, they'll be returning to the mansion for Leo's funeral. The cause of death, a stab straight to the heart. Our boy tries to piece things together, wondering who could have killed his brother. When he brings it up with one of the servants, the poor man turns pale with fear and apologizes for even making eye contact. Alan finds the whole thing too strange and sudden. That's when Evan finally arrives with a report. Alan asks what he's found, and Evan's words are shocking. Apparently, everyone in the mansion believes Alan is the mastermind, the one who destroyed Leo's organization. Suddenly, the frantic behavior of the staff starts to make perfect sense. The scene shifts to the days before Count Leo Palacio's death. On the way to Rodmill, Evan questions why his young master chooses to head towards such a remote village, believing the city would have been a better choice. The boy dismisses the idea inwardly without hesitation. Rodmill is his final destination. Even after saving the great sins and preventing a future disaster, Rodmill remains the only place in the game not tied to the main story. Plus, his family already owns a villa there. In short, it's the perfect hideout. Peaceful, secluded, and ideal for a noble who just wants to rest. When he gives his usual vague reply, Evan isn't surprised, just mildly irritated. The boy's habit of brushing things off so casually always gets under his skin. With a resigned sigh, Evan decides to keep quiet for the rest of the journey, sulking like a child denied his favorite toy. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Count Leo watches their carriage roll away from the balcony. For a long time, he has contemplated killing the boy. Yet even before he could put his plan into motion, our boy left first, abandoning the family mansion as if he had no interest in becoming the head at all. Leo's unease grows. Perhaps it's because of the situation in Avalon and the mysterious Blue Moon incident. Still, to make sure the boy has no hidden agenda, he orders his carriage to be followed. His right-hand man, Alman, then asks if he truly intends to kill the young master. The question catches Leo off guard. Alman has never questioned him before. His tone, calm yet defiant, sounds more like a complaint than curiosity. Annoyed, Leo snaps back, telling him to just follow the order. But before he can finish speaking, Alman drives his sword straight into Leo's chest. Gritting his teeth in pain, Leo demands to know why Alman betrayed him. The man only scoffs, saying he's been waiting for this moment for 2 years. The truth hits hard. Alman's real name is Haydn, a member of the Blue Moon who infiltrated Leo's side long ago. Haydn explains that anyone who dares harm their great moon, our boy, must die. Apparently, members of Blue Moon are free to act on their own, once our boy's life is in danger. Also, it seems this so-called kid cult has grown far beyond expectation, drawing more followers into its cause. Still, Haydn complains that being close to Leo was almost unbearable. He had to endure 2 full years before he could even speak of killing our boy. Leo, bleeding and furious, sneers that his men won't let Haydn escape. But Haydn just laughs and reveals the final blow. Apparently, they took their time slowly eradicating Avalon, carefully dismantling it piece by piece. Now, they've ensured that the world remembers Avalon only as a criminal organization that vanished overnight, wiped out in an instant. During this time, the boy wakes up to a lazy morning in Rodmel. He enjoys a simple, home-cooked meal with Evan, savoring the rare peace of his new life. For the first time, every cell in his body feels like it's truly resting. But the peace doesn't last long. Evan arrives with a letter from the Count's mansion. As he reads it, his cheerful face stiffens, disbelief turning into horror. Count Leo is dead. With that single message, the boy becomes the sole heir, the new head of the Palacio family. Back in the present, the boy now sits quietly in a corner beside Evan. The rumors spreading through the house are absurd. He's being branded as the mastermind behind everything. He wonders how anyone could believe that. He's known everywhere as the trash son, the least likely person to orchestrate such a grand scheme. As if reading his mind, Evan explains. The situation looks too convenient. The deaths of the Count and his siblings make him the only beneficiary. And conveniently, he was far away in Rod Mill when it all happened, giving him the perfect alibi. The logic hits him like a slap, twisted but hard to refute. Evan adds that with Avalon gone, there's no one left to cause trouble. Then, with a straight face, he concludes that his master must be the mastermind backed by a powerful force. To some extent, it sounds like truth mixed with madness. Our boy is left speechless. Even if someone destroyed Avalon completely, no individual should possess the power to do so. After a long silence, he finally asks about the recent group hunting down criminals, the Blue Moon. Evan understands what he means, but shakes his head. It's unlikely they're connected to Avalon's fall or Leo's death. For one, Blue Moon always leaves their crest behind as a statement. In addition, the scene is kept clean. Yet the Avalon members were killed with swords, a sign of a swordmaster's work. If it were Blue Moon, Leo's body would never have been found, and their signature crest would have been left behind at both the mansion and every Avalon base. This revelation drives the boy into deep thought. The Blue Moon doesn't even exist in the original game. He's now facing an unknown variable, something outside the script. Elsewhere, the group, now better described as the Elders, since more people have joined their cause, gathers for a meeting. Ryan reports her mission success, assuring she left no traces. Sedling follows, saying all bodies were handled. Then Deus Michaelian steps in, reporting intel from their sources. 435 Avalon members remain. Ridden enters next, reminding them their orders were to cut those numbers in half. Yusha shows a satisfied smile, though it remains a mystery how their orders are communicated, perhaps through one of Allen letters that got misinterpreted. Either way, that single command, combined with Leo's failed assassination attempt, reduced Avalon, once the most powerful criminal organization, to ashes in just 5 days. Not even a week. After the cleanup, Ridden reports one last finding. During their mission, he discovered a folder listing noble families tied to Avalon. Among them stands the Altea Duchy, a house deeply connected to the organization. It's official. The Blue Moon's next targets are the corrupt noble families. Yusha doesn't need to give a long speech. Everyone present already knows what to do. The Blue Moon has evolved into a full-fledged dark ops force, striking from the shadows. Having children capable of toppling nations. Now that's both terrifying and impressive. Still on the same topic, Yusha asks about the situation at her information guild. Ryan responds that they have handled it. Any matter related to the Blue Moon is now treated as irrelevant information. It's not just the information guild either. Deus adds that every other guild classifies their final cleanup as an attack carried out by Swordmaster. When Ryan suggests continuing surveillance, Yusha nods in agreement, but warns that everything must be kept secret from their young master. Out of nowhere, Deus brings up Count Leo's case, but Yusha cuts him off mid-sentence. Her calm tone turns sharp as she reminds the group that they are nothing more than the sword in the young master's hand. They are not meant to act on their own. That incident was the first and last time they would ever move without his command. From this point on, they're to obey his orders completely. The atmosphere always shifts whenever Yusha becomes obsessed with our boy. Even Deus, with all his composure, can't understand why someone as powerful as Yusha, unmatched in strength, grows anxious and restless at the thought of their young master discovering their secret operations. Still, he doesn't dwell on it for long. To him, everything they do is for the good of their master. Speaking of which, the said master is currently buried under a mountain of paperwork. It's been only a month since he officially took the position of count, yet his workload is already overwhelming. Unlucky as always, the poor guy just wants to enjoy a peaceful, lazy noble life, but fate clearly has other plans. Right on cue, another stack of documents arrives from the county officials. Ironically, these same officials used to be lazy when his father was alive. But now, they've suddenly turned into diligent workers, terrified ones to be exact. Rumor has it that their new lord kills subordinates for the smallest mistake. Watching their trembling hands and fearful eyes, the young count is left speechless. The timeline shifts to him training with Evan. Evan can't hide his astonishment as he watches the count wield magic. For someone to become a second-tier mage within 2 years, and self-taught at that, is nothing short of extraordinary. Normally, it takes 4 years even for the gifted, so Evan's admiration is genuine. But inwardly, our boy feels uneasy. He explains that he's been practicing defensive magic, which requires precise mana control. In theory, it shouldn't be too difficult. Yet when he first arrived in this world, he was shocked to discover that even Alan could use magic. At first, he was thrilled by the idea of summoning lightning from thin air. But that excitement faded fast once he realized how limited his power truly was. His mana hole, the core of one's magical capacity, was abnormally small. He compares it to physical talent. Just as some people are born with athletic bodies, others are born with strong mana capacity. Unfortunately, his own mana hole is so tiny it's almost laughable, practically the size of a finger. No matter how much he tries, things never go the way he wants. As he sinks into thought, Evan breaks the silence, mentioning that they've been invited to a noble ball. He looks surprised, but before he can react, the scene transitions to the ball itself. Making a grand entrance alongside Evan, he views the event as a perfect opportunity to build connections with the nobles. After all, he'll soon be officially recognized as the Count, and a good reputation is vital for peace. Determined to give it his best, he steels himself for the challenge. Unfortunately, things go downhill fast. The nobles treat him like a walking plague, avoiding him at every turn. Evan tries to reassure him, saying the reaction was expected. After all, the palatial name no longer carries dignity. Once respected, the family is now seen as the black sheep of the East. Our boy admits he already anticipated this and came prepared. His plan was simple: fix his reputation using his charm and communication skills. However, things take a humiliating turn when he casually asks a young lady about the wine and requests a few bottles to take home. Her reaction is pure horror. The girl turns pale and rushes off to her father, too terrified to even answer properly. He tries to stop her, but it's too late. The damage is done. What was supposed to be a harmless conversation now makes him look like an even bigger scoundrel than his infamous brothers. As always, Evan steps in with words of comfort, but after several failed attempts to socialize, our boy gives up. He's officially the most avoided person in the entire ballroom. Dejected, he steps outside to get some fresh air. Meanwhile, a beautiful red-haired lady quietly observes his every move from a distance. Outside, he stands lost in thought, wondering how everything could have gone so wrong. Then, unexpectedly, a gentle voice calls out to him. For a moment, he thinks it's just his imagination, until the voice speaks again. Turning toward the sound, he finds a girl standing there. She introduces herself as Loria, the third daughter of the Altea ducal house. The name strikes him instantly, the Altea Duchy. In the game, they're one of the three great villain families, known as the Black Sheep of the North. And if a member of that family is willingly talking to him, it's clear she isn't just an ordinary noble. But that isn't what surprises him most. Despite his extensive gaming knowledge, he doesn't recall ever encountering her character in the story. Looking anxious, Loria doesn't waste time with pleasantries. Her voice trembles slightly as she asks for his protection, a request that catches him completely off guard. Seeing the confusion in his eyes, she gathers her courage and reveals the truth. Someone is planning to assassinate her soon. During their brief conversation, our boy learns that Loria's father, the Duke, has fallen gravely ill, and as the daughter of a mistress, her life is now in danger. This meeting is purely for survival and to find protection. After thinking it through, the boy finally understands why he doesn't remember her from the game. Loria was destined to die long before the main story even began. Still, despite that grim fate, she asks for his protection. But the boy refuses without hesitation. Loria tries to stop him, even offering half of House Altea's estate in exchange. Yet he still turns her down and walks away. Protecting himself is already hard enough. Taking on her troubles would only invite disaster. Besides, he isn't as powerful as the rumors make him out to be. Even if he can't help her directly, he can't leave her completely hopeless either. So, with a faint smile, he reassures her that something good will definitely happen to her soon. In truth, he only hopes that someone more capable will appear to protect her. But unknown to him, his kids have been watching the entire exchange from the shadows. From the dark corners of the hall, Rhine silently observes the situation. She analyzes Loria carefully. The House of Altea is indeed connected to Avalon, but based on Loria's behavior, she doesn't seem involved in her family's dealings. In short, she isn't one of their targets. Deus Michaelian comments that this makes their job easier. They can eliminate the rest of the Altea family and leave her alone. But Rhine raises a concern. According to Red Moon, which refers to Yusha, their current mission is to cut off all leaks of information. Basically, Rhine is reminding them to ensure their young master doesn't suspect their involvement in any of these operations, especially those related to House Altea. Meanwhile, the man who could turn nations to dust walks through the ballroom, lost in thought. He's unaware of the many eyes secretly observing him, until someone approaches. He turns around, slightly irritated, but that irritation fades into surprise. The one approaching him is a striking red-haired beauty. From a single glance, he can tell she's dangerous. Her cheerful smile feels forced. He knows immediately who she is. Maintaining his composure, he greets her politely, addressing her as Lady Zenonia. She looks surprised that he recognizes her. He calmly responds that it's only natural she's quite famous. Then, he gives a quick rundown for context. The three great villain families of the Kingdom of Asteria. To the north stands House Altea, which he already encountered. To the east lies his own house Palatio marked by their moon crest, perhaps the reason the great sins call him the Great Moon. And finally, to the west is House Zenonia, the so-called degenerates. The red-haired lady before him is Kalia Zenonia, the eldest daughter of that infamous house. If the Palatios rule the underworld, the Zenonias take it a step further, refined crime, masked by wealth and charm. That's exactly why he wants nothing to do with her. Still, he keeps a calm face, pretending to be at ease while forcing himself to stay composed. After exchanging compliments, Kalia suggests they talk more. The boy accepts politely, but quietly warns her that they're being watched. Hearing this, Kalia smiles faintly and says he truly is just like the rumors describe, whatever that means. With a mysterious tone, she says she looks forward to their next meeting and walks away, leaving him frozen in confusion. Her sudden change in demeanor feels far too strange to ignore. Meanwhile, Rhine and Deus observe the conversation. Rhine finds nothing abnormal, but Deus reports a new development. Someone has been watching their young master throughout the entire ball. Since no direct orders have been given, they decide to continue observing and eliminate the spy if necessary. The next scene shifts to a vast canyon bathed in shadows. Evan looks uneasy, wondering why the canyon remains so dark despite it being broad daylight. The boy, on the other hand, seems thrilled. He's finally found the place. Strange runes glow faintly along the canyon walls, and he assures Evan they're exactly where they need to be. In the game, this was a well-known area, the Labyrinth of the South, also called the Labyrinth of Whispers. It contains 8 chambers, each guarded by riddles that, once solved, grant powerful rewards. Confident, the boy remembers every part of the original walkthrough. When the gate of the labyrinth appears before them, it gives off a far darker aura than in the game. Evan, curious, asks how his master discovered such a hidden place. Our boy slips, saying he's been here often. Evan blinks in confusion. Realizing the mistake, he laughs awkwardly, calling it a joke. Evan sighs, warning him not to joke around with that kind of face. As they venture deeper, one of the trials triggers. They're suddenly attacked by winged creatures. Before they can react, a massive stone hand descends from above, crushing the monsters instantly. Evan freezes, staring at the colossal hand hovering overhead. He realizes instantly that failure means death. If they don't solve the riddle, they'll be crushed the same way. But his master remains eerily calm, completely unbothered by the danger. Evan is both terrified and amazed. For years of following this man, and he still can't understand how his mind works. Moments later, the boy casually announces he's solved the puzzle. Evan can only stare in disbelief. How could someone who rarely leaves his mansion know so much about everything? Eventually, they reach the final chamber, the treasure room. Among piles of gold and rare artifacts, the boy's eyes lock on a dull black ring. Evan frowns, calling it a waste. All that effort just for an ugly ring? But the boy warns him to drop that thought immediately, adding that touching anything else could cause serious problems. At last, he has obtained what he came for, the constraint, a powerful artifact. In the game, leaving the labyrinth was supposed to be simple. But this time, Evan's alarmed expression says otherwise. The piles of stone runes surrounding them begin to move, merging into giant golems. Evan draws his sword, ready to protect his master. The boy simply steps forward, ignoring the threat. Evan urges him to retreat, insisting they can't win this fight. The golems advance, and just as things look grim, the boy activates the constraint. Time freezes. Everything stops moving, and he finds himself in a strange, empty space. A voice echoes around him, declaring that he possesses a fragment of the great will of Nyarlala and must now state the 2 constraints he desires. In the game, this was just a simple selection screen, but here, it feels divine, real, and far more terrifying. He recalls the mechanics. The ring grants immense power, but only in exchange for strict limitations. Knowing this, our boy chooses the best constraints when the voice tells him to speak. Calmly, he raises his hand and performs a gesture, a domain expansion symbol. His first constraint. In every spell casting, the seal of Babylonia must be required. The voice asks what he seeks in return. He replies, the power to twist reality and the laws of the world, just a little. The first constraint is granted. The being then asks for his second. This time, he performs a different hand sign. In all future spellcasting, only the sacred words of Babylonia may be spoken. Again, the voice asks for his intent. He repeats the same. To gain the power to bend the rules of reality. The space falls silent. The being pauses, as if processing his choice. The boy grows nervous, wondering if he's made a mistake. After all, he followed the exact steps from the game. He knows that choosing seals and sacred words enhances magic exponentially. Having played through this scenario countless times, he's certain it will work. Finally, the being accepts both constraints. Then, unexpectedly, it acknowledges him, calling him the one who understands the secrets of the forgotten god. It praises him for carrying their will and blesses him as their chosen inheritor. The boy stands frozen in shock. None of this ever happened in the game. As the ring fades from his hand, he realizes the constraints were truly accepted. The voice leaves with final words. It will always watch him, the inheritor of its will. Time begins. Evan rushes forward, trying to stop him, unaware that his master has just reached enlightenment, awakening the power of a god. Ignoring Evan's panic, the boy raises his hand. A small sphere of lightning flickers in his palm. It's the best he can do with his limited mana hole. But now, it's the perfect time to test his new constraint and discover the price it demands. Following the spell casting, our boy layers 4 magical incantations into his cast. The first is Refraction, which alters the shape of the small lightning orb. The second word, Rebound, amplifies the power of the lightning itself. The third, Blue Light, shifts its intensity and hue. And the last, Linear Diffraction, compresses its form into a focused beam. Then comes the moment of truth. With the precision of Gojo's signature hand sign, he activates the spell. In an instant, a blinding surge of blue lightning bursts forth. Evan's jaw practically hits the ground as the entire canyon lights up like Judgment Day. The golems are struck by what looks like divine punishment. Lightning tribulations raining from above until every single one of them crumbles. When the storm settles, the canyon looks exactly as it did before, eerily calm. Evan breaks into a cold sweat, trembling in disbelief, while our boy maintains his usual calm expression as if nothing extraordinary just happened. As they leave, the ever-curious Evan can't hold back and asks if his master was intentionally hiding his strength. Our boy casually denies it. Evan admits that in his 15 years as a mercenary, he has never witnessed anything like that. He even questions if his master is truly a second-tier mage. Our boy confirms, pretending it's no big deal, though deep inside he's losing his mind. The spell was far stronger than anything in the original game. In Psychedelia, players could enhance magic using sigils and incantations per turn, but this was beyond anything the system allowed. He recalls that the spell he used on the golems was a lightning chain, but with 4 incantations stacked, the power multiplied over 5-fold. In simple terms, each word layered and amplified the lightning until it became a wide-scale area of effect catastrophe. And here's the craziest part. He was supposed to pay a price for using the constraint, yet instead he gained more power for free. The being from the labyrinth even acknowledged him for wielding the will of the forgotten god and granted him gratitude instead of a price. In other words, the cost of using the constraint is 0, and that alone is why the lightning chain became absurdly overpowered. Outside, Evan is drained and pale. Staring back at the labyrinth, he mutters in awe, wondering what kind of being could create something like that. Come to think of it, our boy remembers that the labyrinth has another name. Back in his original world, it was a shared tutorial and map area, and over time, players began referring to it as the Labyrinth of Palaeon. So he simply tells Evan that it was created by someone named Palaeon. Evan's confusion deepens, but our boy just helps him up and decides it's time to return home. Along the way, he explains an important detail. During spell, casting sigils affect the nature or element of magic, while incantations strengthen its power and effect. In the game, these were selectable options in a window, but now, sigils actually alter the essence of the magic itself. He suspects his precise mana control might influence their effect as well. But since he's out of mana, further testing will have to wait. Meanwhile, Ryan has been observing everything from the shadows. She heads into the labyrinth of Palaeon herself, where she reads the runes inscribed on the walls. They mention the age of the forgotten gods and the script of the Alanef Empire, along with a line revealing that Palaeon was a sword master who stood his ground against darkness. None of it makes sense at first. Constraints, the gods now, Palaeon and Alanef. But Ryan's explanation sheds some light. She reveals that Palaeon was a knight from the ancient Alanef Empire who once defeated Akalaka, the devourer of subject souls. She knows this because she was born under the Great Mission and raised within the ancient library. What shocks her most is that our boy already knew about Palaeon, something that even scholars like her barely understand. While thinking about this, she realizes that Yusha's real identity as the Bloody Queen differs from what is recorded in ancient texts, confirming that something about her is truly extraordinary. In addition, For our boy to know about Paleon and even be acknowledged by that name is beyond ordinary. The incantations he used in the canyon weren't recorded in any ancient archive, which only deepens her intrigue. Now, she realizes Yusha's obsession with him might not just be infatuation. There's something divine about his existence. Now she, too, begins to feel drawn toward him, her curiosity teetering dangerously close to Yusha's obsessive level. At this rate, their admiration could easily tip into full Yandere territory. Before she can process everything, Deus arrives with alarming news. The spy tailing our boy has been found dead. According to Deus, the spy's neck was twisted unnaturally, as if by an invisible force. Rai narrows her eyes, suspicious that Deus might be involved, but decides to handle the report herself. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Count Zenonia's mansion. Our red-haired lady, Kalia, sits reflecting on her brief conversation with our boy. She concludes that the rumors about him being emotionless and detached might actually be true. What puzzles her, however, is that he called her famous. Yes, her family holds influence across the Western territories, but she herself rarely attends social events, this ball being her first appearance. Turning to her father, she asks if he doesn't find it strange. The Count stares blankly, silent as stone. Then Kalia snaps her fingers. Instantly, it's revealed. Her father is nothing more than a puppet under her control. With a sly smile, she admits she's the one truly running the county. Recalling their meeting, she realizes our boy must have noticed the spy she planted to follow him. That's probably why he avoided her. Truly, this woman is dangerously sharp and twisted. Just then, a servant rushes into the Count's study with urgent news. Kaliao wonders what could be so important, but the servant quickly urges her to come to her room. There, lying motionless, is the body of the very spy she sent to monitor our boy. The servant explains that the seal on the spy's body remained unbroken, meaning he likely died while trying to reveal a secret. But Kalia interprets it differently. She believes our boy killed the spy and left the body in her room as a warning. Now, her lips curl into an intrigued smile. To her, this isn't fear, it's fascination. Our boy just became much more interesting. At this point, our boy is basically the shadow of the story, just like the characters from Shadow Garden. Everything his 5 kids do ends up being mistaken for part of some grand and mysterious master plan. If you made it this far and feel the video is worth it, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Until the next recap.